YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back just after week 5 of the NFL with Contender or Pretender. Going through every single NFL team, breaking it down. At the very end, we'll talk about the legit Super Bowl contenders and maybe some dark horses. Have to shout out a GOAT House viewer here that goes by Astronaut. He came up with this idea a few weeks ago, got it to me through the Discord, which you can join through Patreon. Appreciate you very much. It's a great idea, and we can actually come back to this video, redo this video, every few weeks throughout the year. Closer to the playoff time will be, pretty accurate too, we would think. So great idea. Appreciate you very much. Let's break something down here so no one's confused. What contender means in this video. Can win at least one playoff game, basically a playoff run contender. That's what I went with here because we will talk about the Super Bowl contenders at the end, so we're kind of doing both. But why I didn't want to just do Super Bowl contenders, because there's not that many of them. There's not that many. Boring. We want to do both here. And why didn't I do playoff contenders, just making the playoffs? Couple reasons. And there's too many teams right now. It's too early early stage. And to me, with teams that possibly can make the playoffs at 9-7, maybe even 8-8, I doubt it, but 9-7, 10 wins possibly. It doesn't really mean much unless you can win a playoff game. So the contender part means they can win at least one playoff game, or they can do more than that. Pretender is the ceiling for that team is making the playoffs. So that's what we'll be going over when we get through every single NFL team here. So hopefully everyone's on board. Right before we get started, we got extra predictions, extra content available on our Patreon. My score predictions come out every Wednesday on YouTube. You can get the defending champs, juniors, score predictions every single week. If you sign up for that tier, you also get playoff predictions, mock drafts, both already updated this week and both updated every single week, and a lot of changes there. Also got NFL award picks on there as well for week 5. Patreon.com/thegoathouse. Go check it out. Link in the description for more info. 40K is our sub goal. Please help us get there. It'd be much appreciated. We got you covered with full NFL content. Random order here. I saved some teams, borderline teams, for the end here, so don't mind the order here. We'll start with the Falcons, and right off the bat, we'll just slap the Pretender right on them. Rough start to the season, very disappointing. And there's a chance, it's early in the season, there's some talent on this team. There's a chance they can make a run. They can definitely make a run. Can they make the playoffs? That's another conversation. Doesn't look pretty at the moment. But the reason I don't think they can win a playoff game is because, the rough start one. And then the defense would be the main one there. I don't think their defense can, it seems like they can't really stop anybody right now. If they somehow get to that playoff stage, can they win a playoff game with that defense and the offensive line being a little rough, which makes it harder on Matt Ryan, the receiver unit, the lack of a running game too. So there's a lot of problems with this Falcons team right now. In the obvious Pretender. Next, we'll go over the Chicago Bears. Can they win a playoff game or more here? I'd say yes, contender. Now, Bears fans are kind of mixed right now. A lot of people disappointed, and I understand why. But this, them having arguably the best defense in football, right now, I'd say they probably do. There's a few teams fighting for it right now, but, having that defense, you always have a chance to win a playoff game. The concern is the offense. Some people are mad with the offensive line. Some people are mad with the, even with Trubisky's healthy, they're upset with him or him being kind of hurt. Will he be playing hurt? Nagy, his play calling, gets a little too fancy at times. Doesn't run the ball to Montgomery enough. So there's a lot of concerns there. But at the end of the day, I know they're in a tough division, but with that defense, it's very possible they can win at least one playoff game. Talking about just after week 5, it's, realistic. Just want to see them stay consistent. The Bills, similar team, people concerned about the offense. Will this offense be able to, put up a fight against, a playoff caliber team? And they haven't really, have they really played a playoff caliber team besides the Patriots, who they lost to? That's the concern. This defense, similar situation to the Bears. I'm going to say contender, because if you have a defense like this that's young and going to continue to get better throughout the year, they can definitely win a playoff game. We'll talk about actual Super Bowl contenders at the end, or teams that can be close. Can this defense get them that far? We will see. But with this defense and, young talent, Tremaine Edmonds is just an absolute animal. And you got Matt Milano. That linebacker unit's really good. And they have unique ways of rushing, The quarterback, the secondary looking good. Maybe the best safety duo, possibly the best safety duo in football. The corners are stepping up. With a defense like that, they definitely can win a playoff game. We actually seen them almost win one a couple years ago. It was kind of surprising to people that they were even in. So I'd say a contender at a playoff win or more. The Cowboys. Cowboys here, another tough team. They're a little disappointing recently. They started off with somewhat of an easy schedule. Now they're starting to lose to just some better teams. But to me, this is a complete team. A complete team, not too many holes. Yeah, they can get better in some spots. I wish they'd be a little more consistent, really, in almost every spot. You're looking at the quarterback play, the receiver play, and on the defensive side. But, with the talent on this team, I think most definitely they can win a playoff game. So I'd say contender. We've seen them win one last year, too, even though last year, I don't really take much from last year. It's a whole new year. But they definitely can win a playoff game. They have to get to the playoffs first, though. But I think they're capable of winning one. For the Denver Broncos, rough start to the season. They can turn it around, really, because we've seen them, start to get better and better. They got a good defense. The offense is getting rolling, and they lost some close games. Really, their record could be solid right now. So they could get things going. It is a tough schedule. I just don't see this team, really getting to the playoffs. But if they somehow do, I just don't know if they can get over that hump of what they got right now. But that's just my take on the Broncos. They could start winning some ball games here, maybe get to the playoffs. But for more than just the playoffs, what we're looking at here, I don't think so. The Browns are next. I just don't think they're ready yet. I'm going to say pretender. They're young. I kind of said that during the offseason. They'll be a good team. They can go on a run like they did at the end of last year. They can start winning some games. And then maybe, the AFC North is kind of wide open, so maybe they can win the playoff, make the playoffs. But can they actually win in the playoffs? I don't really trust this team yet. I don't trust the offensive line. I don't trust Baker under pressure yet. I like Baker. This team runs on the run, relies on the run game a little too much. I don't think it's going to work. I think it can work, somewhat work, but I don't think they're going to have Nick Chubb running wild, which opens up the pass game in a playoff, type game. And the defense, I know they got some guys hurt right now, so it could get better, but it's just, there's really nothing here that's just great to win a playoff game. Coaching's been a little, on the fence too so far at Freddie Kitchens. So, I don't think, they could make a run and possibly sneak in the playoffs. It's possible, but I just don't see them getting over that hump. The Buccaneers, inconsistent team. 1 week you see an elite offense, but are they going to continue to be that elite offense with, that offensive line who's inconsistent with the quarterback that's inconsistent? And the defense, they give up a lot of points. They do have a pretty good pass rush, mainly because of one guy, but they are getting Jason Pierre-Paul back at some point during the season, so could that turn them around? It's a sneaky team. It's definitely a sneaky team, but I just don't see consistency. That's my number one problem with the Buccaneers is consistency, and you need that for getting to the playoffs and then winning throughout the playoffs. And the Bucs just don't have that. I like their coaching staff. I like what they're doing. But it's just not the year for them, I don't think. But better than last year for sure. The Cardinals, right off the bat, we can go pretender. They're young. They're you could say they're heading in the right direction. The way the NFL's heading and the way they're heading, they're going to need some time. They're going to need to, build up some more talent for Kyler Murray. A little disappointing, guys like Isabella not getting in there yet. But really the offense, I say the offense is in the right track for, a couple years down the road. The defense, I think, has a ways to go. There's some young talent. There's some good talent like Chandler Jones in there, but they got a little ways to go here. But, yeah, I mean, no surprise they're a pretender right now. No surprise that the Bengals are a pretender. Weird situation. I've actually liked the way they've drafted over the last couple of years. Defensively mainly. We've got some studs there that could continue to get better over the years. They just got to figure out their quarterback situation. I wish Finley would play so they could see if he's the answer or not. See if they can. I know there's a lot of season left, but see if they need to draft one. I'm assuming that they think that Finley's just a really good backup, and they may need to draft one for the quarterback of the future. They also need to stay healthy. The offensive line could be better if Jonah Williams in there. Some other guys are hurt, but they definitely need more there. So there's a lot of building up to do for the Bengals still. But I think their draft class has been pretty solid over the years. It's one good thing to say about them. The Colts definitely a contender, and it starts with the coaching staff. Very good coaching staff, and the biggest part that people seem to forget about playoffs, and just mainly week one of the playoffs. Teams got to adjust. Teams got a game plan. That's the key. People just try to look at the teams, who's hot and who did better during the regular season, who's got the best talent. Yeah, that plays a part. but it's mainly about the game plan and Frank Reich and company here. I definitely trust, maybe I don't trust this team as a whole, long term, can they win the Super Bowl? We'll talk about that at the end. But I definitely trust the game plan, the coaching staff, and the talent, the young talent that continue to get better throughout the season. And we've seen them, you have their lows so far this season and have their highs. They just came off beating the best team in football in the Chiefs. So, I think time will tell, and I think over time they will get better. So they're definitely at the contending stage of winning at least one playoff game. They can win in the playoffs, basically, is what I'm saying here for any of these teams I have contender on. The Eagles, it's pretty obvious the Eagles got a good coaching staff. It's pretty obvious they got a really good offense. The defense is, I guess, the concern. They stopped the run at a high level. That's about it. The pass rush is a little underwhelming, but at times it's good. But the secondary is really where they're at. But they have enough, they're well coached and they have enough on offense. The only thing I worry about, which we'll talk about in a little bit later in this video with some teams, is health. We've seen them get beat up last year. We've seen them at times this year. The receiver unit, the offensive lineman coming in and out of games, Jason Peters, even Andre Dillard. That's what I worry about. It's a legit concern, but definitely a contender. This team's got more than just one playoff win if healthy. Which we'll talk about at the end. The Giants, rebuilding team, so pretender. We've seen them get a little bit of a winning streak there, 2-game winning streak. It doesn't mean much. Injuries on top of all that. Daniel Jones he's shown promise. He's shown he's got the potential. So that's pretty good sign. But playoffs, they're not going to make the playoffs, so that means they can't be a contender in this video. Seahawks is another obvious one. They're definitely a contender, and they got maybe a little more than than just winning one playoff game. You would hope. My problem with them is, go put teams away. Get a little conservative at times. I don't always like the play calling. Sometimes I love it. Sometimes I hate it, honestly. With an elite quarterback, and then with the good running game, and then some pieces on defense. You add Clowney, stuff, things like that. They still got to get Jaron Reed back too. They're definitely a contender. The Jets are next, and really the Jets are a sneaky team because they're getting healthy now. They're getting Darnold back. Some other guys have been out, and they haven't played their best ball. They haven't played the ball they can possibly play, and an easier schedule, so they actually can make a run. There is it's not a good chance, but there's a slight chance they can make a run with the easy schedule and being healthy and make the playoffs. It's slight, but I don't think that if they somehow do, I just don't see a way they can get over that hump. Too many young players, so I think they'll be outmatched and outcoached if they somehow got to that stage. Next is the Chiefs. We can zip through this one real quick. Contender. If you have the best quarterback in football, the best player in football, experience with the coaching staff of getting to the playoffs. Just a very good offense in general. Hopefully they're healthy between guys like Damian Williams, Tyreek Hill. Defense is on the lower, the weaker side, but I think a bunch of new guys like Frank Clark, Matthew, continue to get better, which means the defense will continue to get better. So it's pretty obvious that they're a legit contender. The Niners start off strong, 4-0. People really not believing in them because what we've seen in the past and because they haven't really played anybody that special. But can they win a playoff game? Legit question. I'm going to say contender. This team's fast. They play fast. I love that. Well-coached team. Looks like they're getting over that hump. Another one of those teams I just want to stay, I want to see stay healthy. We've seen them beat up in the past, especially last year, and they have some guys that have that slight concern. They draft Nick Bosa, who had that concern, and they already have Juszczyk hurt. So I want to see them stay healthy. But because of, the balance, there's not a lot of holes on this team, and there's a lot of, good talent, young talent continue to get better, and how they play fast, how they're well coached, all those reasons, they definitely can win a playoff game if they get there. Tough division, though. Saints, pretty obvious. They're a contender. They're a contender with Teddy Bridgewater. They get Drew Brees back. They're definitely a contender, winning, at least one playoff game. Their defense is playing better than I thought, because last year they gave up yards. They just got a lot of, last year at the time I'd call it lucky turnovers. They continue to do it, and they're not giving up as many yards now, so it just looks like they're a good defense. That's the best way to explain it. Playmaking defense is the best way I can put it. So the defense is legit. We know the offense is legit, a little more consistent, more confidence with Drew Brees in there too, which you expect them to get him back and him to stay healthy is what I'm trying to say here. The Packers are next. Packers off to a good start. It scares me a little bit they let comebacks happen. They're winning those games still, but I think that has something to do with LaFleur. His script is great in the beginning, and you see him and Rodgers kind of get at it, as the course of the game goes on. But so I think they can fix that as the season goes on. They have talent, a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. It's a pretty obvious contender here that they can win a playoff game as long as you have one of the better quarterbacks in football. And now that their defense is playing, it's another one of those playmaking defenses. They're definitely a contender. The Patriots, pretty obvious contender. I mean, I don't have to go over this one too much. Well coached, best coached team. They know how to game plan both sides of the ball. The quarterback knows how to game plan. Best quarterback of all time. He's not the best quarterback anymore, but doesn't really matter. And the defense is balling. So, I mean, there's really not much to go over here. It's an obvious contender. The Dolphins. The Dolphins are a contender at the first overall pick, so they're a pretender, and that's where they want to be. So, not much to go over here. Not enough talent. They traded away their talent. Even with that talent, they traded away. So, don't think so. The Steelers, because of injuries, we already know where they sit. They're at pretender. It's a challenge to even make the playoffs at this point, so pretty obvious there. The Rams with the struggle right now, they have a very weak defense, and the offensive line is not the same as it used to be. And then Goff with, getting that pressure, on top of, the offensive line not being good, he's turning the ball over a lot. So is this a Rams team that's a big-time disappointment going forward? It could be, but with that coaching staff, McVay mainly, I shouldn't say coaching staff because I'm not really thrilled with Wade Phillips right now. The defense looks lost at times, but with that offense, they're able to overcome a sloppy offensive line, some turnovers, and still put points up on the board. Very good at game planning. The offense is still great. The defense, there's no way it can get worse at this point. So maybe it can get better, maybe stay the same. They definitely can win in playoff games about that game plan, about the explosiveness on offense. I think they're kind of saving Gurley a little bit, and they can use him more right now. See what happened last year. They're holding some things back, I think. So I'm going to go contender with the Rams for sure. The Redskins are a contender for that first overall pick, so they're a pretender. They can start winning some games because they do have some talent on defense. I like their front seven. If they just keep a quarterback in there, they can start to get a rhythm possibly. New coach could light a fire underneath them, so, get a little momentum. But they're a pretender. Pretty obvious reasons. The Vikings, there's a lot of talent on this team. For that reason, it's contender. I think one of the more balanced and complete teams, it's just about the quarterback play. And then just the team in general, they haven't been too, not just Kirk Cousins, I guess throw Kirk Cousins into that, but the team in general, in the past just haven't really been able to get over those big games. But I think, with the talent they have, they should be able to win a playoff game. I'm not saying they will, but, it's a team that I think are definitely have a possibility of winning a playoff game. The Raiders are next, and this is where it starts getting into, we're going to start the teams I save for last. The teams that are borderline here that or could cause a discussion in the comments mainly. This one, I didn't have to think a lot about this one, honestly, but it's interesting because they are on a streak right now. They're looking pretty good. They're much better than they have been. I still think pretender. I don't think they're ready yet. Offense looks good, but they are a little inconsistent. Consistency goes along with getting to the playoffs and winning in the playoffs. But the defense, I don't really trust the defense, down the stretch. So that's why right now they're heading in the right direction. But right now they are a pretender. The Tennessee Titans. Team's a pretty balanced team, complete team almost. A lot of talent here and there. Really good defense. Some of these other really good defenses I had, winning. Or saying they're a contender because they can win because of that defense. I love this defense, but I still got to go pretender. I just don't trust this team. There's a lot I don't trust. The offensive line super inconsistent. I trust Mariota a little more than the offensive line, but those kind of go together. I don't trust the play calling. It's inconsistent. It's pretty bad. I don't trust the coaching decisions in general. It's been pretty bad. The defense is good, but just super inconsistent. Just not enough trust. They can possibly sneak in the playoffs. I just don't see them winning a playoff game. I don't know if they have the game plan. I don't know if they'll be just consistent enough. That's the best way to put it. So they are a pretender right now. The Ravens are a tough one too because we've seen them pretty darn good against the weaker teams, struggle against the better teams, I suppose. And then they the defense doesn't look quite as, they were, right there with the Bears at the end of last year. It doesn't look quite as good so far. Lamar Jackson, a little inconsistent, a little sloppy, but I still go Contender. I still believe in Lamar Jackson. Yeah, I want to see him stay more consistent, but he's tough to game plan against. I think they're saving a little bit, so we know he can run a little more, which can be, if it's my team, I don't want to play against that, and that's a factor. That's a game plan factor. How you going to match up? It could open other things up, and you got some young receivers that will continue to get better. In the defense, I think at this point last year, the defense wasn't anything special, and then all of a sudden it got ridiculous. I considered it an elite defense last year. I think a similar thing can happen. I think you can get closer to being a top-tier defense by the time we get to the end of the year. So, and they've learned from, a mistake, the game planning mistake last year, offensive side of the ball in the playoffs. I definitely think they can win a playoff game. The Jags, another borderline team, because they're playing pretty well right now. They haven't played the best of teams, but they're playing pretty well. Did lose to the Panthers last week. Gardner Minshew can play. He can play, but what would he be like in this atmosphere, the playoff atmosphere? How would they be able to game plan? People, concerned about the coaching staff maybe in that. They did go to the AFC Championship game, though, and the defense. I don't know if the defense isn't the same as 2 years ago, but it's playing pretty well. Will Ramsey being there? So there's a lot of questions on the fence about Minshew, being able to win a playoff game, but they do get Nick Foles back. They can get Nick Foles back. Will they put him in there? How will he be coming off the injury? I definitely think this team can make the playoffs. I just don't see them going over that hump. I'm going to say pretender, but like I said, we're on the borderline teams right now. It's very tough to determine what these teams, and like I said too, we can come back to this throughout the year, maybe 2 more times throughout the year, 3 more times. But I'd say pretender. I think they can make the playoffs. I just don't know if they get over that hump. I guess we kind of got to learn more about Minshew. Got to learn more of who we think the quarterback will be. Will Foles come back? We need to know more here. The Lions are next, another tough one because not a lot of trust from people with the Lions because what they've given us over the years. But this is a complete team. I compare them to their NFC North rival in the Vikings. I think very complete. I don't really know of a hole on either teams. You could argue the hole at both teams could be quarterback. I like Stafford a little more than Cousins, but that's kind of the position that's holding them back. But everywhere else, I don't see a hole. There's some uniqueness. There's some top-tier talent. But, it's the Lions. Can we trust the Lions, especially in the NFC North, to get over that hump? Like, it's tough, but I'm going to say yes. I like this team. I like the coaching staff. For the most part, Bevel, I'm kind of on the fence about, but I think there's a lot of talent on this team, and I think if they make the playoffs, it's tough to predict the NFC North. I'm not really predicting in this video who's making the playoffs, so that's the difference. But if they make it to the playoffs, I can see them game planning around and having the talent to win a playoff game. I don't know if there's much more than that, but that's what I got. Tough team to decide here, though. Another tough one, the Texans. Honestly, I might get criticized for this, but I didn't have to think a whole bunch about this one. And they are a borderline team, but I'm going to say pretender. I definitely think they can make the playoffs. Actually, I think they may make the playoffs based off right now, one of the lower seeds. Why do you say pretender? I don't know if they can get over that hump. I don't think they can get over that hump there. It's mainly the game planning and the coaching staff. I'm not a huge Bill O'Brien fan. I don't know if he can, have a great game plan. I think he'll get out-coached in that playoff game. I don't think they get over that hump. Another reason is because, they don't really have anything, I don't think, elite in terms of groups. I like the receiver. I know DeAndre Hopkins is elite, but in terms of groups, they're supposed to be this great offense, and they can be at times, but sometimes we've seen them get out-coached, out-game plan. Teams figure out how to stop the explosive passing game because they don't have much of a running game. I like Watson. I love DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller. I love that group. I just don't know if they can get over the hump. The defense isn't going to be elite either. It's not going to be – the defense isn't going to win them a game. It has to be the offense in the playoffs, It has to be the offense. It's mainly I think they'll get out-coached. That's what it is, and I'm kind of confident about it. I'm big fan of Watson, was high on him his whole career so far. I just don't see them getting over they definitely can make the playoffs, but I don't know. That's at this particular time. Again, we'll come back to this. The Panthers are a real tough one. Surprisingly, their defense is very good right now. Their defense was bad last year. It was bad. Panthers fans don't think so, but it was bad last year. They gave up all kinds of yards, mainly through the air, and you can run on them. Solid run defense, though. But they gave up all kinds of yards through the air. And a lot of guys from last year that struggled are stepping up in a big way. They also add guys like Brian Burns. They had guys like Gerald McCoy, but mainly you got to credit to this the coaching staff, Rivera, and the defensive coaching staff. They changed this defense around. It's a unique defense. It's a hybrid defense. They're great at game planning against offense. We've seen them against Texans. That kind of brings up what I was talking about. They knew how to eliminate the run or eliminate the pass because they didn't have to worry about the run. It's a unique hybrid defense. I like it. They create turnovers. Teams that create turnovers continue to do that throughout the year. Doesn't really carry over to the next year always, but that's what I like. But the problem is offense. First, can we trust this defense to keep it going? But offense, can we trust Kyle Allen? Will Cam Newton come back? Is it going to be pretty terrible like he was? Those are the questions, and that's why it's all borderline. But I'm actually going to go with Contender here because the defense, I think, will continue to be a playmaking defense, and the offense, it's tough to say Kyle Allen will win a playoff game. I think McCaffrey could be the best non-quarterback in football right now, so I think he can win a playoff game. And I like Cam Newton. He's been awful, but if he comes back and he's healthy, 100% healthy, and they put him in there, it's crazy, but I'm actually going to trust Cam Newton. And we've seen this team over the years win games that you don't think they should win. You think the other team has more overall talent. They continue to win it as long as they're healthy. We've seen them go to the Super Bowl, and that really has nothing to do with today. But for those reasons I explained, I have to say Contender, but that's a borderline one there. And the next team is Chargers. Before the year, you would say most definitely a Contender. If you made this video, before the year, I'd say, yeah, for sure, Contender. But they're really struggling right now. Phillip Rivers, is he on his way out? He doesn't have much right now. It's disappointing. And, they're really lacking the receiver unit because Mike Williams is disappointing, keeps getting hurt, but he should be better, and it's really only Keenan Allen. And on the defensive side, I know Ingram's hurt, but the pass rush you wish was better, but mainly the secondary's pretty bad. And I know they'll get Derwin James at one point, but overall it's bad. It looks like Hayward's not the same, It just doesn't look right here. So it's a little disappointing, but this is kind of a Chargers move right now to start the season off a little slow. I definitely think they can pick it up, especially with getting injured guys back. So I have to say Contender. So I definitely think they can win a playoff game at least, because there's still a lot of talent. They're a smart team. I think they'll get better as the season goes on. That's kind of my take. But what's on all these teams? So that's all the teams that we went over here. But now let's talk about like Super Bowl contenders. In my opinion, who are the legit Super Bowl contenders, and I'm going to talk about these here. Super Bowl contenders. And so basically I have 7. The teams all the way on the right I'm not ready to put in there yet. But let's talk about the elite Super Bowl contenders. I'm going to break all these down. The Chiefs, Patriots, and the Saints. Those are the obvious ones. Those are the top tier teams. And these are all in order for the most part here. Well, for the Chiefs, Patriots, and the Saints, even though the Chiefs just lost, they're still my favorite. I picked them to win the Super Bowl. Before the year, I'm sticking to it. Best quarterback, best player in football. You have talent everywhere. Damian Williams is, he was hurt. I like Damian Williams a lot. He's going to continue to get better. They're going to get Tyreek Hill back. Like I said, the defensive guys, Frank Clark, the new additions, there's talent there. They're going to continue to get better, so the defense will continue to get better. So the team will continue to get better. I like the Chiefs. The Patriots are obvious. They're elite for obvious reasons. Best coaching staff. Like I said, game planning, coaching is key. They do it on both sides of the ball. They have Tom Brady. They have a good running back group. They have even with Antonio Brown out, or not with the Patriots anymore, they still have a great receiver unit. The defense is good. Don't have to go on about that. The Saints looking real good, both sides of the ball, very complete team, really no holes. Even with Teddy Bridgewater, I'd probably keep. They wouldn't be on the same page with the Chiefs and the Patriots. I may keep them here because I just like this team that much. So, and they'll get Drew Brees back. So the Saints are under elite for solid. So that next group of Super Bowl contenders, the Eagles. The Eagles probably would be under elite. They're maybe borderline, but the reason I just didn't hesitate to put them under this category is because health. I want to see them stay healthy, and because of defense. The secondary. They're not on the same page. I actually trust the Chiefs a little more down the road than maybe the Eagles. I know they'll get some healthy guys back, but it's a little messy back there. But I think the D-line will continue to get better, but it's mainly health. Can Carson Wentz stay healthy? Can the offensive line stay healthy? Can the defense stay healthy? That's where my concern is. But well coached, Wentz will continue to get better. The offense, if healthy, will continue to get better. So that's why they are a Super Bowl contender. They're under solid. The Seahawks are under solid as well, because I like this team. Pretty complete team. They got an elite quarterback. I think right now the second best quarterback in football behind Patrick Mahomes in Russell Wilson. The run game is great like last year. Maybe it hasn't been on par with last year, but I think it will get there. Maybe could use another receiver, if I'm splitting hairs here. But in the defense, I like the defense a lot. It's not an elite defense. I think another piece that will continue to get better. You're going to get Reed back. Clowney's figuring out the new system. Seems like he's getting better and better as I predicted as the season goes on. It'll continue to happen. The reason they're not under elite, which I think they should be. I think they should be under elite. Can I trust the coaching staff? I like the coaching staff mainly. I love the coaching staff mainly because player development. But the reason I say that's a concern to me in terms of play calling, sometimes they look great in terms of play calling, and sometimes I absolutely hate it. They get a little conservative, and sometimes they rely on the run game too much, and they do that like teams. I always bring up the Vikings for an example, that they rely on the run game almost too much. But the reason is because they have to, because their run blocking is way better than their pass blocking, and because they have Kirk Cousins at quarterback. The Seahawks don't have that excuse. They have Russell Wilson at quarterback. So this team should be under the elite category, but not a whole bunch of trust. But I do have a good amount of trust. That's why they're up here. It just that's why they're kind of not in that category, I should say. The dark horse, these are still, to me, right now, after week 5, Super Bowl contenders. I'm just not feeling them as much as the teams ahead of them. The Packers look great right now. They actually have a defense, the playmaking defense, but that defense can give up yards. We've seen Amari Cooper kind of expose them a little bit. We've seen the Eagles kind of do it. They can give up yards, but they do make plays. The defense is better. I like their pass rush. And I got to start splitting hairs at this point, comparing them to the other teams. But I do like the Packers here. On the offense, it's mainly just LaFleur. I don't always trust him, and I don't think Rodgers does either, and that's kind of my problem there. But like I said, for Super Bowl contenders, I have 7. They are one of them. I'm just trying to split them up between the other teams, and that's what I'm explaining here. They're really getting the running game going. I like the running game. I love the pass rush duo right now. The two Smith guys, Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, looking great. And the Niners I actually have up here. Why? Because they're well coached, they're very complete, and they play fast. They have fast players, speedy players, maybe the fastest in football, but mainly they play fast. As a team, they fly to the ball, both sides of the ball. You see guys blocking downfield, flying around. I love that. I'm a believer of speed kills. The Niners have that. They're very complete. Why they're a dark horse? Why aren't they on the same page as the other team? And I do think the Packers are a good step above the Niners too. But why the Niners down here is because, if I worry about if the run game doesn't work, which the offensive line looks great right now, can they rely on the pass game? I still want to see more from Jimmy G, but mainly health, kind of like the Eagles. The Niners have a health concern. See Juszczyk hurt. He'll be back at some point. The defensive guys sometimes get hurt. I like Jimmy Ward's back. He's looking pretty good. And then Garoppolo, and then you got the receiver unit, guys constantly coming off hurt. So that's what I worry about. This team's talented, but can they... it's still a challenge to make the playoffs, because will they all of a sudden get hurt? But love the way they play, love the way they're coached. That's why they're up here. The teams that just missed the cut, so they're not really involved in this, but I had to shout them out. The Rams, because of coaching, because of explosiveness on offense. But that defense scares me. The offensive line scares me too, but the defense really scares me. I just can't, at this point, I can't really say, they can compete with the teams ahead of them because of the defense. And the Colts, love the coach. Same thing. Love the coaching staff. They have talent. They have young talent, but maybe too young. Maybe they could get better in some spots. The defense, I'd say inconsistency is why they're on the just miss, but I definitely consider them. They're inconsistent. The defense mainly. Can I trust them going on? They can definitely win a playoff game. Maybe more, but can I trust them long term? And the Bears, they have to go under just miss because they have an elite defense. The question is, can defense still win, championships? Can they go on a run because of that? Can they go on a run with Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback, or maybe he's hurt? Maybe it's Chase Daniel. Maybe people are concerned about the offensive line. So there is some flaws in having the Bears. That's why they're under just miss. But I do love the defense. And the Ravens, they have the game plan factor. It's so hard to game plan against them. Lamar Jackson could do anything at any time. Wouldn't surprise me. And the defense, I think, will continue to get better. We saw it last year. I think it can continue to get better and get up there. So that is that's kind of in order there. The Rams, Colts, Bears, Ravens. I think there is a gap between after the Rams and Colts. I think there's a gap, and then there's a slight gap between the Bears and the Ravens, and then maybe the just miss column that people are probably looking for those teams. Maybe the Vikings and the Cowboys. The Vikings should be. It's kind of. I'm a Vikings fan too, and it's kind of pathetic that they're not on this list, or they're because not because of me, because of them. Because they have so much talent. They have a great defense. They have stud receivers. They have a stud running back. I just don't trust them to clutch up in multiple big games. I definitely think they can win a playoff game. I just don't know if I can. It's not. People always say Kirk Cousins, but it's kind of how the Vikings always been. So put those two together. I don't know if I can trust them winning multiple playoff games. So that's why maybe they're on they just missed the just miss column. And then the Cowboys, very complete team. They're just not consistent enough, and they don't really have anything elite. And I'm not talking about players. I know Zeke's an elite running back, but having an elite running back may not get you anywhere. DeMarcus Lawrence is maybe a borderline under. He's just under elite. Jalen Smith maybe just under elite for a linebacker. But I'm talking about a unit to take over. I just don't see it. Some weeks they're just inconsistent. That's the best way to put it. And I don't have anything elite to take them over the top. The offensive line you could say is elite, but I don't know if it really gets them anywhere. If a lot of these teams with the great offensive line, it can get you far, and it's an important piece. But I don't know if it gets you over the next hump if you don't have anything else to take over. The Cowboys, hard to trust them at the moment. Any other teams that I did not talk about, we can talk about in the comments. I can explain why. This is a very early stage, so it's tough to do. We can revisit this, but we went over a lot of this. This is a long video, so if you want to talk more, go to the comments. Appreciate you guys for being here, watching this video. We have full NFL content, plenty more on the Patreon. Please subscribe. We much appreciate that. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.